everyone, welcome back to the tutorial series on social network analysis using Gephi. In the last video, we went through the first part of creating the edges table for import into Gephi. This video continues on from the last video and we'll be walking through the rest of the steps to creating the edges table for import. So in the last video, we finished off with calculating the aggregated edge weights for each pair of nodes in our data. Now we proceed to compiling the edges data into the edges table in a new tab. So we are going to create a new tab. Let's call it the edges table. And just like the nodes table, we manually key in the essential column headings: source, target, type, and weight. So again, source refers to the ID of the originating node, for example, 1, and target refers to the ID of the destination node, for example, 2. Type of the edge is either directed or undirected, and the weight of the edge is what we just calculated in that previous table. So in the source and target columns, we manually key in all possible pairings of groups, and we need to make sure that these appear in the same order as they appeared in the table we used to calculate the edge weights. So they'll need to appear in this order. So for instance, in the first row, we would have the source node as group 1 and the target node as group 2. And in the second row, we would have source as 1 and target as 3. And in the third row, we would have source as 1 and target as 4. And we can basically just drag this down to 21, as we have 21 nodes. And a quick Excel tip again here is to highlight the first 3 numbers because they're the same. And then if we go to the bottom right corner and double click on the cross, Excel will autofill the rest of the numbers for us for this first group of pairings. And then we would do the same for 2. And with 2, we start with the source of 2 and a target of 3. So remember, we don't need to compare a source node of 2 and a target of 2 because that doesn't make sense. And we have already covered the interaction between group 2 and group 1 here. So to include that again here will be double counting the edge weights. So we are not going to do that. And we would do this for all our other pairings. So in this case, up to source node 20 and target node 21. So the index column is useful in compiling the edge weight information in Excel, but it doesn't really need to be imported into Gephi for analysis. Essentially, what it does is that it assigns a number in numeric order to each pairing of nodes here. So we will just enter the index numbers in numeric order. And again, we can double click on the bottom right to autofill. So in this case, we have 210 pairings. And what we're doing here is we're trying to shift the edge weight information that we calculated here in this table to this edges table here. We can simply just copy these numbers and paste them onto the edges table. But just in case we had to make some last minute changes to our raw data or anything like that, if we simply copied these numbers over to the edges table, the edges table won't be updated automatically. So what we're trying to do here is to enter a formula here that tracks down these values in this row here in case if there's any update, the edges table stays up to date. So let's have a look how we go about doing that. So what we use is the index function in Excel. So in the weight column for the first row, we would put in index, and then in the bracket, there are 3 items that we need to put in. So the first item would be the edge weights cell range, the cell range we're asking Excel to look up. In this case, we're looking up this row here. So we just need to highlight the entire range that contains the numbers that we want. And remember to put a comma next to the first item. And the next item is row number. So in this case, we're only looking at one row of data. So the row number is going to be 1. The next item tells Excel which number in that row we want to look at. So in this case, we want to look at the first number for the first pairing. So the number will be 1. And let's hit enter and see what happens. Excel has picked up that the number we're looking for is 102. So the number matches what we have here, which is the edge weights for node 1 and node 2. Okay, so a few tips here. Because we have this index column here, we can just replace the last item in the formula with our index numbers in the index column. And also, we will need to fix the cell range so it doesn't move as we drag down the formula. So we'll put dollar signs before the column and the cell number to fix the cell range. Okay. So now we can simply click on the bottom right corner and all the numbers will be automatically filled in. Just to be safe, we can check a few numbers. For example, this index number 27. Which is the interaction between group 2 and group 9. So let's have a look what the edge weight for group 2 and group 9 is. Group 2 and group 9. And the number is 21. And here we have 21. This just tells us that the formula has been correctly applied across all the cells. Okay, and for type, we're just going to enter undirected here because our network data is undirected. And this completes the edges table. So we now have both the nodes table and the edges table ready for import into Gephi. A side note here about the format to import. If we choose to import a table as a CSV file, we need to go to the relevant tab and click on Save As and choose CSV UTF-8, delimited. Note only the information in the chosen tab, in this case the edges table, will be saved to the CSV file. So if we want to import the data as CSV, we will have 2 CSV files to import. One for the nodes table and one for the edges table. And if we choose to import a table in Excel format, we must make sure that we change all the formulas in the relevant spreadsheets to numbers before importing. This ensures the data is imported correctly into Gephi. So when we look at the cells in the weight column, we can see these values are currently the results of the formula that we went through earlier. And we want to change these to numeric values only without the formula. what we do is we press Ctrl Shift and the down arrow on our keyboard. That allows us to select all the values in the entire column. And we would go right click and we choose copy. And we want the values back in the same area again. So in the same area, we would right click again. And this time we will choose paste special. And we would choose values to paste. And OK. Now let's have a look at the cells in the weight column again. So now when we click on the cells in this column, we can no longer see the formula. Instead, we're only seeing the numeric values that we want to import into Gephi. Another good practice before importing into Gephi is checking the number of non-zero edge weights. So in this case, we are just going to enter a formula to calculate that. So first of all, we would calculate the number of zero weight edges, and we would ask Excel to count how many zero weight edges there are in this table. So we would use the COUNTIF function, and the first item we would put in is the range that we want Excel to count through, and the second item will be the criteria. In this case, we're going to put in quotation mark equals 0 and quotation mark. So in this case, Excel has picked up that we have one zero weight edge in the table. And now we are going to ask Excel to calculate for us the number of non-zero weight edges. And we can simply use our index number here, which tells us how many pairings of nodes we have. That is how many edges we have. And we can just minus that by the number of zero weight edges calculated above. And so here Excel's calculated for us and is telling us that there are 209 non-zero weight edges in our network. And when we try to import the data into Gephi, Gephi is going to automatically pick up on how many zero weight edges there are and will report a number that shows how many non-zero weight edges there are. And a good practice is to check whether the number of edges recognized by Gephi matches with the number that we have here. I should add that this calculation that we just performed here should not be imported into Gephi. So it's just for our own checks. So maybe it's worthwhile storing this calculation elsewhere. Make sure when we import the edges table, things don't get stuffed up. We have now walked through how to create the nodes table and the edges table for import into Gephi. In the next video, we will be walking through the actual steps of importing the nodes table into Gephi. Thanks for watching.